Okay, as promised on the shorts, we're back on the 66 Mustang. Now, the part I am doing now is I'm getting the everything prepped to do the cowl, welded on, get everything nice and tucked in. I've got a little bit of metal work left to be done on the parts where I patched, just a little bit fine tuning. Then I'm going to spray on some weld through primer along the edges. And then I've got to take this right here, which is the lower half of the cowl, and I'm going to pop some holes in this along here so I can plug weld this to the top half of the cowl. This connects the top half of the cowl over there, but it does not connect there. This actually just welds to that cowl over there. And then of course you clamp the front and they both weld to the body. Now in prepping for this, I have just put on some brushable seam sealer around the edges of this top hat. This is a very problematic area on 65 and 66 Mustangs for rust. Water and mud and all kinds of crap comes in through here through the fresh air intake, collects here after the plugs get plugged, and the actual drain gets plugged and rusts this out. That's why this cowl needed to be replaced. Now I've also put seam sealer up here and over here as well and along that. Now the reason I've done that, a little bit new to this, is I am actually going to YouTube and looking at some things. There's actually a gentleman that has a page called Peterson Restorations. He does amazing metal work on basket case, rusted away early Mustangs. He has done many of these cowl replacements, and I've been watching him, so I'm taking his guidance to do this. And one of the things he does is he actually puts the seam sealer around these areas. This is paintable. It is barrier bond seam sealer. It's actually the stuff that he recommended, and it's quite expensive, but it seems to be good. This stuff right here that I'm going to be seam sealing all of the areas to make sure the inside is sealed up from moisture and leaks and things of that nature. What I've got to do next on this is I've got to wait until this dries. Then I'm going to come in here and pop the holes. I'm also going to take away the paint along the edges, top and bottom of both this and that other cowl. Spray that with weld through primer, as well as spray that with weld through primer. I'm in the process of cleaning up the area here, which you can see I've got pretty well done. There's a little bit of scale there, but I'm using rust encapsulating primer on that, which I've had great success with for many years. So I'm going to be cleaning up all of this, priming this area here while it's still accessible before I put the cowl on. And here we are just a little bit later. It's still drying, but the rust is neutralized under here. Everything's nice and clean. So we're ready to attack the cowl. All right, what I've done here is I have stripped away the EPD coating so I can get good welds. That is weld through primer right there. And I think I'm going to coat this with weld through primer as well. The cool thing about this is I've got a couple of different options I can do. Once I bolt this two upper and lower cowl together, I'm considering going to Harbor Freight and spending 160 bucks for their 220 volt spot welder and spot weld these pieces together. That way, once I flip it over and drill the holes all the way around the perimeter of this upper cowl and the upper and lower down there, I can weld it straight to that. To take the CPD coat off is this. This is actually a paint stripper disc made out of fiberglass. It does not grind, it simply removes paint. These are very, very useful. Once again, a disclaimer, I am not a welder, but I've got my spot welds all the way around, and as you can see, the longer I did it, my welds became a little bit more consistent. When I first started over here, they were really bad, but they got better as they went, and this thing is in there. It is not going anywhere. So all I've got to do now is I've got to come in and grind off the tops of these to flatten them out all the way around, and then drill the holes on the top part of the cowl, put it in position, repeat the process.
The next day.
What I've done here is I matched up all of the mounting holes where it needs to go, following a similar pattern to the OEM spot welds, which is basically haphazard. They were not evenly spaced, and I've got holes drilled all the way around the perimeter of this. And what I did is I used my pneumatic punch tool, which is that right there, to punch an initial hole, but those are only 1/4 inch holes, so I needed something a little bit bigger, so I drilled them out to 9/32 using my step bit. Now what's next is I'm going to clean up the underside of the surfaces where the drill has left burrs. I'm also going to prep that, and I'm going to paint the underside of that cowl and get it ready to go, which means I'm going to have to mask off the areas where I'm going to weld and paint that. So let's get busy. Well, apologies, my camera died, so I wasn't able to get the taping off on camera, but that's no big deal. What I did here is I just scuffed it with 320. This is not particularly visible. You just need to make it look good underneath the fresh air intake. So I just came in here and I scuffed it with 320, taped off the areas where the welding is going to be done, and sprayed this with some satin black. Now this has some advantages even over stock because a lot of the metal in this area was unfinished, and that's part of what leads this to rusting out on the stock cars. Again, these Mustangs were not meant to be high-end luxury cars. They were budget cars, and they did cut corners. This was one of the corners where they did. The seam sealer that I brushed on here is paintable, so that's painted over. That's ready to go. I'm going to let that dry, and now it's time to do this. The side of the holes that I drilled has some burrs on them. I'm going to come in here with my grinder and a flat disc, and I'm going to smooth those out before clamping this into place and starting the welding. Okay, the holes are nice and level now, no burrs from the drilling, and I've got a light dusting of the weld-through primer on there to prevent rust from coming back. Let all this dry, then mount it back on, and time to start welding. Okay, keeping in mind these parts are just sitting here. They have a lot of adjustability and everything. The main thing I wanted to see was, is my cowl, as the position is right now, in the ballpark of where I need it to be? And you can see that I've got pretty decent gaps. Now these are reproduction fenders from what I gather. They're not going to fit perfectly. They're going to require some work, but I've got plenty of room to maneuver here as far as adjustments go. The hood can go over. See, this is a little bit off this way. I come over to the other side here, and it's dead on, which means that I've got a reproduction panel here that's not quite perfect. So what I can do is I can dial the hood in left or right to get that a little bit more in line. I've got plenty of gaps to work with, plenty of maneuvering I can do on the fenders. So it is in the ballpark. I took measurements from two parts of the corner to the shock towers, either way across and down the line, and from the back of the panel to there and across. And I've got it as close as I think I can actually get it. Again, these are reproduction panels. Number one, they're not going to fit perfectly. Number two, the gaps on these cars out of the factory was rather abysmal too. Plus, you got to remember that once the hinges are on, this hood is going to set up as well too, so that's going to cover that. So I think I can work with this. I don't think I'm going to get it any closer than that. Reproduction panels, of course, the mounts for the windshield wiper posts are a little bit off. You can see they're both wide, that is the cut of the reproduction panel as opposed to actually getting the bottom cowl correct. So that's just the way it's going to have to be. It'll look good. Again, that hole is covered anyway with the windshield wiper arm. So I think I can work with this. I am going to yank the fenders and hood back off of it, and I'm going to start welding. Well, here we are after some time. Again, disclaimer, I am not a welder, but we've got it secured all the way around both to the lower panel and to the car itself. Now this right here, this was a little bit of damage. This got pushed up. I can trim that off, that's no problem. Or I can just leave it alone because the rubber goes over that and it'll seal it. But the thing is, it works really well. Now one thing I want you to know is avoid mistakes like I have made. Take your time, of course. I'm a little bit scatterbrained. My first couple of welds, they welded fine, but they ended up looking a little discolored. They're holding fine, and I couldn't figure out what was going on for the first couple of welds. Then I realized, oh duh, I didn't turn the gas on. So I didn't have any shielding on that, and it was sputtering and everything. Once I turned the gas on, you can see they turned out really, really well. Now what I've got to do next is I've got to clean this off here, this off here. I'm going to grind all the welds, clean this off here, this off here. Then I come in here on both sides with this plate here, and it spots here, 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 and here, and down here, right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 holes to drill there on either side. Clean it up to where it can actually get done, but I'm going to at least grind off the spot welds underneath before I put these on it so I can get to it. But take that off. It's very, 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 very good. I can clean it up and make it look pretty, but the important thing is it's on there. I did all my measurements 300 times, made sure it was in the right place, and it's good to go. I had to come in here with a patch back here because this is where, when I was cutting the spot welds off, it went through because it was thin right here. So I just came in here with a piece of metal and tacked that in and sandwiched it in between, which is like that from the factory in a couple of areas, so I figured it was okay, and that will work. I do have some family plans coming up, so I think I'm going to stop this video here and go ahead and produce it and put it on, and I will follow up with grinding off the welds and also putting those small panels in on either side to finish this job up. Get it sprayed in primer so it does not rust, and then we can move forward with cutting the floors out of this thing and getting busy there. Same process as well. Cut it out, grind it down, mount. I can plug it very, very close together and then seam seal it around, and it'll be just fine. That's going to do it for this video. I want to thank you for joining me. Be sure and hang around. More shorts coming up with updates on this. I may just put the other stuff in a short to let you know that it is done, but we're just going to grind those welds off, put those other pieces on, and that'll finish out the cowl assembly. Thanks for joining me.